Sydnie Christmas stood on a bright stage, calm and steady, as millions watched. Her voice was strong. The judges were silent. For a moment, everything in her life seemed clear and simple. But soon after, the timeline began to shift. Small details started to surface. Dates no longer matched. Statements changed. Quiet gaps appeared where clear answers should have been. Public praise stayed loud. Yet behind it, parts of the story slowed, paused, and then moved in a different direction. The rise was fast, but the path after it became harder to follow. And somewhere in that space, questions began to form that were never fully explained. Public records place Sydnie Christmas's early life in the United Kingdom, where she grew up in a stable home environment. Family members later described a structured routine centered on school, practice, and performance. From an early age, she showed a steady interest in singing and stage work. School programs became her first platform. Teachers recalled that she often volunteered for solos and group performances, showing control and focus beyond her age. These early appearances were simple and informal, yet they revealed a consistent pattern of preparation and discipline. Community events followed. Local theaters and public gatherings provided small stages where she could perform regularly. Archived programs and event listings confirm her participation in seasonal concerts, youth productions, and charity shows. These appearances were frequent but limited in scale, often drawing modest audiences. Still, each event added to a growing performance record. Over time, her presence in these spaces became routine. Organizers began listing her name more often, suggesting rising trust in her ability to deliver reliable performances. During this period, she enrolled in performing arts programs designed to prepare students for professional pathways. Training included vocal technique, stage movement, and breath control. Attendance records and early promotional materials show that she committed several hours each week to instruction and practice. Friends from these programs later recalled her consistent attendance and structured rehearsal habits. Unlike many students who treated classes as extracurricular activities, her schedule reflected long-term planning. At the same time, she began sharing short singing clips online. Early videos were simple recordings, often filmed in controlled indoor settings. These clips attracted limited attention at first. Engagement increased slowly, measured in small increases in views and comments. Over months, her tone improved, and delivery became more stable. The recordings show gradual progress rather than sudden jumps in ability. Each upload added to a growing archive of practice and performance. Local media coverage during this stage remained limited. Small press mentions appeared around school events and community shows. Articles described her as dedicated and focused, highlighting family support and steady ambition. Interviews from this period avoided dramatic framing. Instead, they emphasized routine, discipline, and long-term goals. Her public narrative centered on training and patience rather than immediate success. Friends described her as organized, often balancing school responsibilities with rehearsal schedules. Social media posts reflected consistent planning, showing rehearsal spaces, practice sessions, and travel to small venues. There were no public references to major struggles or disruptions. Her progress appeared smooth and methodical. As national casting opportunities approached, her background suggested steady preparation. Performance logs showed regular activity leading up to audition periods. However, early timelines began to show small differences. Some reports listed the start of her formal vocal training several years earlier than others. Certain profiles described a longer stage history, while others suggested a shorter preparation period. Archived interviews presented slight variations in how long she had been training and when she first appeared on stage. These differences were minor, but they introduced uncertainty into the timeline. While all sources agreed on her early dedication and discipline, the exact starting point of her professional development remained unclear. These early records formed the foundation of her public story, yet the small gaps between dates and accounts left unresolved questions about when her structured training truly began. Chapter 2. Open casting for Britain's Got Talent draws tens of thousands of hopeful performers each season. The process is long and layered, beginning with online applications, followed by in-person screenings, closed auditions, and multiple internal review stages. Public information confirms that Sydnie Christmas entered this system during a period when her online presence and local performance activity were already established. Registration records show her application was accepted, but the exact date of submission varies across different sources. Early screening rounds are not filmed or broadcast, and only limited details are released publicly. Standard procedure involves several evaluations before any performer reaches the televised stage. According to later statements, Sydnie progressed through these initial phases over a period of months. During this time, she continued structured rehearsals and vocal coaching. Social media posts from that period show regular studio visits, travel between cities, and consistent training sessions. However, the timing of these posts does not always align clearly with reported audition milestones. Some interviews suggest that she received confirmation of early success well in advance, allowing for extended preparation. Other statements imply that scheduling notices came with shorter lead times. This difference creates uncertainty about how predictable or sudden her advancement truly was. In several posts, she referenced preparation without specifying the purpose, leaving open whether these sessions were for early auditions, later rounds, or general training. Behind-the-scenes procedures for televised talent competitions remain largely private. While public voting only begins after broadcast episodes, producers maintain significant control during early selection stages. Performers from previous seasons have described long waiting periods, repeated callbacks, and sudden requests to travel. In Sydnie's case, public documentation suggests a faster progression than average, though no official explanation has been offered. Archived casting announcements confirm the date of her televised audition taping. Yet the weeks and months leading up to that moment remain only partially documented. Travel records implied by social media posts show multiple location changes, though without stated reasons. Studio bookings increased, suggesting intensive preparation, but it is unclear whether these sessions were self-directed or guided by production requirements. Some online posts were later removed or edited, making full reconstruction of the timeline more difficult. Screenshots preserved by fans indicate earlier captions that referenced key dates later adjusted or deleted. These edits did not directly contradict official information, but they narrowed available context. As a result, several transitional stages in her audition journey remain undocumented. Industry norms indicate that most performers wait extended periods between audition rounds. In contrast, Sydnie's public activity during this phase showed few extended breaks. Rehearsal frequency appeared consistent, and travel remained steady. This pacing suggests either continuous advancement or ongoing preparation without clear external markers. Public confirmation of her final selection arrived shortly before the broadcast announcement. At that point, her schedule intensified, with rehearsals, styling sessions, and production meetings implied through brief social updates. However, exact sequencing of these events remains unclear. While her televised appearance date is fixed, the internal selection process leading to it lacks detailed public documentation. The compressed appearance of her progress, combined with limited disclosure, leaves open questions about how quickly her audition moved through internal review and what factors influenced that pace. Chapter 3. Sydnie Christmas's televised appearance unfolded under carefully controlled conditions. The stage lighting, camera angles, and quiet pause before her performance created a focused setting. She stood still, offered brief introductions, and began singing without delay. Her delivery showed control and precision. The judges listened without interruption. Audience reaction remained restrained until the final notes, when applause filled the studio. Within minutes, short clips began circulating across social platforms. Online engagement increased rapidly. View counts rose into the millions within hours. Comments focused on technical skill, tone, and stage presence. News outlets quickly published short profiles summarizing her background. Headlines emphasized preparation, discipline, and steady development. Her performance became one of the most shared segments of the episode. Interviews released shortly after broadcast reflected calm professionalism and clear messaging. She spoke in measured terms, referring to training routines, support systems, and long-term goals. Public response remained largely consistent. Television segments replayed her performance. Radio programs discussed vocal technique. Digital platforms amplified short clips. Analytics showed sustained interest across multiple regions. Her follower counts increased sharply. Media requests expanded. Scheduling adjustments followed, suggesting rapid coordination between broadcast exposure and publicity efforts. As attention intensified, earlier interviews and press profiles resurfaced. Some observers compared new statements with archived material. Minor variations appeared in descriptions of her training timeline and early performances. In some interviews, she referenced a longer period of structured instruction. In others, she described a shorter, more informal development path. These differences did not directly contradict one another, yet they created subtle shifts in her public narrative. Televised commentary focused on present performance rather than past details. Judges praised vocal strength and control, offering limited reference to background history. Audience reactions mirrored this focus, centering on immediate impact rather than personal story. As a result, public perception formed quickly around her onstage presence, while underlying details remained secondary. Behind the scenes, preparation schedules reportedly intensified. Social posts showed rehearsals, wardrobe fittings, and travel. Each update offered only brief glimpses, without full explanation. While performance schedules became more visible, planning processes stayed private. Industry norms suggest that such periods involve coordinated input from producers, coaches, and public relations teams, though no official confirmations were released. Media coverage expanded to include longer interviews. These segments introduced small changes in phrasing regarding her journey. Statements about first performances, earliest training, and initial influences differed slightly across outlets. Some descriptions emphasized early discipline, while others framed her progress as gradual discovery. None clarified specific dates. Public records from local events remained consistent in listing her appearances. Yet their timing relative to her televised rise became less clear as new material dominated coverage. Archived clips and articles from earlier years began circulating, often without context. This created overlapping narratives, each presenting fragments of her development. As her public image solidified, focus shifted toward upcoming rounds and future projects. Discussions of background detail diminished. Attention remained fixed on performance results and advancement. Interviews prioritized preparation for subsequent stages rather than reflection on early history. The rapid shift from local performer to national figure compressed public understanding of her journey. While the performance itself remained central, the layering of new narratives over older records introduced small inconsistencies. These differences remained unaddressed as media momentum continued, leaving unanswered questions about how certain details aligned within the larger timeline. Chapter 4. Following her televised success, Sydnie Christmas entered a phase of rapid professional expansion. Performance invitations increased sharply. Booking announcements appeared across multiple platforms, often with short notice. Concert venues, private events, and televised segments scheduled appearances within tight windows. Travel patterns reflected frequent movement between cities, suggesting a demanding itinerary. Each confirmed appearance added to a growing calendar that left limited gaps for rest or extended preparation. New management and representation arrangements soon followed. Public announcements confirmed partnerships with industry professionals, though specific contract details were not released. Press statements described strategic planning and long-term development, yet offered few operational details. Industry norms suggest that such transitions involve structured decision-making and brand positioning. However, in this case, little information was made available regarding how these strategies were formed or who guided them. Her public presentation began to evolve. Wardrobe choices, performance staging, and interview tone showed subtle shifts. Early appearances emphasized simplicity and technical focus. Later performances introduced more polished visual elements. This change suggested coordinated branding efforts. While adjustments in image are common for emerging performers, the speed of these refinements drew attention. Each modification appeared carefully timed to coincide with new media opportunities. Studio sessions increased, with social media posts referencing recording work and rehearsals. However, details surrounding these projects remained limited. Announcements hinted at upcoming releases, yet formal confirmations were delayed. This created a cycle of anticipation without clear timelines. Public statements focused on preparation rather than results. Scheduling coordination appeared highly centralized. Interviews referenced guidance from professional teams, but names and roles were rarely specified. Inquiries about management structure were met with general responses emphasizing collaboration. Without transparent breakdowns, it remained unclear how decisions regarding bookings, branding, and media appearances were prioritized. Some industry observers noted the compressed timeline between her televised debut and expanded professional engagements. Standard career growth often allows gradual scaling. In this case, exposure and opportunity increased almost simultaneously. While such acceleration can occur following high-profile appearances, the degree of coordination suggested extensive planning. Public-facing communications remained carefully controlled. Statements across platforms showed consistent phrasing and tone. This uniformity indicated structured messaging. However, earlier spontaneous updates became less frequent. Informal behind-the-scenes glimpses gave way to professionally produced content. Despite increasing visibility, documentation regarding internal operations stayed minimal. No detailed accounts outlined how her career direction was being shaped. This absence limited public understanding of the mechanisms driving her rapid development. As her schedule filled and presentation refined, her public identity continued to shift from emerging performer to established act. Yet the speed and precision of these changes raised questions about unseen influences guiding her direction. Without open records, the forces shaping her expanding career remained largely undefined. Chapter 5. As Sydnie Christmas's public profile grew, her schedule intensified noticeably. Appearances that had previously been spaced out became closely packed. Concerts, interviews, and promotional events occurred with minimal gaps, often requiring rapid travel between locations. Publicly documented bookings show a sequence of engagements that left little room for extended rest or unplanned delays. Each day appeared structured to maximize exposure, with rehearsals, media interactions, and live performances arranged in tight succession. Social media activity from this period reflected continuous engagement. Posts frequently highlighted studio sessions, rehearsals, and backstage preparations. Images and short videos captured moments of practice and transit, though they provided only partial insight into the broader schedule. While public content suggested routine activity, the intensity of documented movement implied long hours and careful planning. Some scheduled appearances were altered or postponed, though official reasons were limited. Press releases noted minor timing adjustments without specifying underlying causes. Archived posts indicate brief gaps in activity, but these were not publicly explained. Observers noted that the changes were sporadic and often unaccounted for, introducing uncertainty about what prompted them. Interview segments during this period emphasized preparation and performance readiness. Statements focused on technical aspects of singing, stage presence, and upcoming appearances. Rarely did discussions reference personal schedules, fatigue, or management decisions. The public-facing narrative concentrated on output rather than the processes that enabled it. Behind the scenes, coordination appears to have been intensive. Social media hints, combined with confirmed bookings, suggest that rehearsal time, travel, and media coordination were managed in a highly structured manner. Industry norms for high-level talent indicate similar pacing, yet the frequency of successive commitments in Sydnie's case exceeded typical expectations for performers of similar experience. Despite the apparent smoothness of public appearances, the small gaps and schedule adjustments indicate that not all activity was fully documented. The underlying reasons for these changes remain undisclosed. Whether due to personal factors, logistical constraints, or production requirements, the details behind the shifts were never made clear. The concentrated sequence of performances and media engagements points to a sustained demand on her time and resources. While the outward presentation suggested continuous readiness, the precise coordination of travel, rehearsals, and live events leaves questions. The unexplained adjustments in her schedule suggest that pressures behind her public appearances were present, though the source and nature of those pressures remain undefined.